Welcome, everyone, and good morning. Know the rules of the game podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Patno. This one's going to be very interesting. As you could tell, I'm already got the jitters. I'm going to be interviewing my husband for the podcast, Couples in Business. So very interesting dynamic is that I literally have to look across this table to my husband of 29 years and go, hey, let's do this, right? There's a whole different connotation we could take there. So again, I'm your host, Desiree Patno, CEO and President, Women in Housing Real Estate Ecosystem, NAWRB. And what we're going to be doing is these podcasts are really focused about bringing innovative conversation about really taking a deep dive into the information that's out there that you might not know about, but also sharing the deliverables that we can bring to you to make sure that you have access to information, sometimes very deep subject like we had human trafficking. This time we're going to talk about the relationship of what that's like to be in business with someone of a significant other or a married couple. And it can be very different as time goes on. As I said, we're almost 3 decades into the system now. I'm working together, and it has really taken a very different dynamic every time we turn around from year to year, even month to month, and sometimes hour to hour, minute to minute. And by doing this, it's hopefully going to give some very lighthearted tips, in addition to some very heavy stuff that we can take a deep dive into. Some of my background, just a little bit more, is that I've been in business for 30 years, been running Desiree Patno Enterprises, a real estate brokerage. I'm also an advisor and investor for AmicusBrain for AI for aging population. I'm a chief strategic officer for ZuluTime for Holistic and Transitional Center for the Veterans. Also a publisher and a national speaker with my network, a wealth of knowledge across a vast economic footprint. So that being said, I want to welcome Jay Jones. Yes, we have different names due to the fact that I had a business for many years before I met and married Jay. And thank you Jay for joining me.
Oh, you're welcome very much.
Yeah. All right. What do I have to to get you to get on this podcast with me?
Basically, you promised I could live for another day.
There's some truth to that. It's pretty, we'll get into that a little bit deeper about CEOs and where we bend and take, right? And what it's like to be humorous to keep everyone going. So a little bit of background about Jay. He graduated with a master's in physics. And when I met him at our former job that we both worked together at, he was so proud that he accumulated 5 degrees with his graduating class of only 25% from the original cast. So it's very impressive. But a very interesting fact about your thesis that you did, which is very much a tongue twister, the electron magnetic studies of the molecular rupture of Kevlar. If you don't know what Kevlar is, this is back in the 80s, correct? That you did your thesis on that?
Yes, my thesis was done in the 80s, but Kevlar was discovered in the 70s.
There you go, for bulletproof material. And so the idea is that if you think about your what everyone uses for the police and the dogs and everything else, and they put it into so many different things. So explain to everyone a little bit about what that is like the tensile strength and how the rupture happens. Why was it so incredible?
Tensile strength is essentially if you were to grab a string and pull the string, when would it break? And you can see that on a string, it could withstand some force there, pulling it apart before it breaks. But if you took a pair of scissors, you just cut that string, no problem.
Right.
So to make a bulletproof material, you have to weave it into a fabric. And with that fabric, the bullets tend to not penetrate. And it was discovered by accident. They were actually working on trying to make fireproof material. And it is fireproof material, but doesn't last very long as fireproof material. But they found it that if they weaved it, they found the strength of it was phenomenal. And today it's used in tremendous number of materials from airplanes, cars, seats, fabrics. It's all over the place right now. And from there, it spun off to all of what you might be hearing more of carbon, based carbon materials that have high tensile strength. So that is how we make our planes lighter, helicopters lighter, everything lighter, but still having a higher strength. So Kevlar has 7 times the tensile strength of steel. So if you took a rod of steel and 1/7 of Kevlar, of the weight in Kevlar, and pulled it, they'd both break at the same time.
Wow. So let me get this straight. So you're telling me with 7 times the strength of steel, yet the lighter quality of the properties with it is that you're putting an armor around you. And with that being said, I remember when you were doing your thesis on it, you had mentioned that there was only 3 machines in the whole United States that could actually measure the tensile strength and pulling it apart. And one of those machines happened to be in Washington. And the concept of actually pulling that apart and actually seeing where it is today, I mean, it's got to be just huge gratitude to look at that from the standpoint you're talking the 80s, and we're talking almost 30, 35 years later.
Yeah, it's the Instron machine was essentially, you have to freeze it down temperatures, because when you pull it apart, you will unbond the electrons and they reconnect super fast in room temperature. So you can't measure it. So an Instron machine, you can freeze it, keep it frozen, break it, have all the unpaired electrons caught from the breakage, and then you can read how many actual bonds there were of carbon-carbon, which causes the tensile strength to be so great. So that was the first time it was ever measured and published, the actual number of the tensile strength of Kevlar.
So you wonder why I had him go into it. So thank you, Jay. That was the kind of things that really intrigued me when we first met at a company called Zontech. It was so exciting to hear the different layers and fascinated me on someone who could, theorize and put things together and see futures. And if you think about that, that's very applicable to a relationship. How you interweave them, how you keep it to connect, or how it fractures, how it can be dispersed into different areas. And we're going to touch on that today. And we're going to hit 3 major topics, and it's going to be on health, financial, and independence. The idea is that what the quote of the day today is that where there is love, there is life. And if you think about Kevlar, here we're protecting the body from a foreign object going and hitting it, and Kevlar is dispersing that impact to making sure that it dissipates the pain and allows you to live, because it's not piercing and going through the body, right?
Right.
So if you think about a relationship, you're going to have its ebbs and flows. You're going to have a lot of issues, especially when you're working together. And that almighty fracturing of not only your life as a relationship, but also your professional life together could be completely broken through if that interwoven connectivity is not there.
Exactly. You have to be mutual. Kevlar doesn't work by itself. Kevlar stops the bullet, but you'll end up with little dents in your body. So you have to have something working, a piece of mesh or sand or something else working together with Kevlar to actually protect yourself. So like in a marriage, you just can't have one person do it. You have to have 2 people working together to produce a satisfying marriage.
Well, okay. So when ebbs and flows happen, and thank you for that, and when things come up and down, we've had our issues. We had a lot of health issues, and with our son and with your health for the last 15, 17 years, and you're doing much better with a lot of different struggles we've gone through. One of the things that we found that has helped us is that I got this crazy idea with me running around the world is that I needed to have someone to be independent. So we're going to take that one on first, about the rule of independence. In a relationship, one has to be either supporting cast, part of the cast, or be equally paired. It's very tough to be equally paired when you have someone who is very outgoing and very boisterous. I don't know who that is. and really want to be out in this and in the space because of my own struggles and tribulations of what I went through as a child. So for you, I've got to publicly announce that it's been an incredible journey, that you have allowed me to be who, as independent as I am. I mean, if you knew that we had 4 boys and we have white carpet, right? Our house is decorated and very feminine antiques and wall-to-wall antiques. But you have allowed me to be who I am, and dressing and with class, but also being able to live in a, don't laugh over there, you can be, but up and down the ladder. Like some days I'll dress very matronly and some days I dress very young, very wild, very, creative, loud, we're going to call it. But at the same time, you've sat in the background and said, it's okay. Why is that?
Basically, I derive a lot of my happiness from you being happy. So, and if this is something that you can do and be happy about, be safe, because that's always a factor in my mind, then why not? Everybody's has to be unique. You can't, parity is very hard when it comes to a couple. Whoever thinks the most, whoever has the most passion for something really needs to take that lead. So your passion is your clothes, and you take that lead on it. And I just, make my little comments here and there, and
sometimes good and bad and indifferent.
Exactly. And we go from there.
So being that it's pretty funny, we talk about clothes, is that I remember the paintings and portraits of several parties at Zontech that you had plaids and stripes. I'm like, is that you? And you're like, yeah, this is my dig. This is what it is. So it's not just me being very vocal. You were in there in plaids and stripes.
No.
Yeah, right. Hello.
Because I was the only physicist in the company that would wear shorts to work that were plaids, who cares,
Mr. Jokester, he looks like a physicist, acts like a comedian, and portrays his authoritarian like everything he says and does is just flawless. Did I sum you up perfectly?
True. I mean, there's a few mistakes, but I always let those go,
Yeah, so that's where with our independence. And so anytime those who know me very well know that my geography and who, what, where, and how, people integrated around the world and everything else, I just defer. I've excelled in that of defer to Jay. He knows everything about anything between the different countries, how they integrated, who did what to who, and all that kind of good stuff. So he's a walking encyclopedia of that. So with that being said, I think the zing and the zang is really played off. No? Yeah?
Are you saying I'm that boring or what?
Well, it depends. If I've heard the story 20 times, then yes. If I haven't heard the story, I'm very intrigued by it, because for someone to be a walking encyclopedia is always been fascinating to me. So I've always been a true steward of yours, in fact, of understanding how much you know, and have been one of the attractiveness of what you do.
Well, thank you very much. Also, the turnaround on the attractiveness that I've had of you was your forwardness of going after what you think is right and correct, and your commitment to those issues. So I've always been a huge fan of that aspect of your life.
Thank you. I mean, if you look at the independence, it's not about how you just look and act. It's also about your goals of achievement to get done. And so so when I'm out there, you hear me, I mean, knows the rules of the game is a perfect example. A lot of the things we bring out to the forefront is very, dark, deep secrets that very few people know about, or we're bringing it to the forefront. That's the whole idea. And helping, if you talk, one of our segments is going to be about mental health, what that's like. And I think that's one of the biggest things that our next, which is a perfect lead into right now, is into the health aspect of a relationship as a couple working together. not only is the health from a physical aspect, but from a mental aspect. You know, you've had some very trying times to where you had occipital neuralgia for 15 years, could not find out what was causing your severe headaches that were so debilitating. From, you know, as you want to describe it, what is occipital neuralgia from the 3 different symptoms of the impact from the headaches?
Well, simply put, occipital neuralgia is just think of it as an extreme migraine 24/7. The occipital nerve is in the back of the head. It goes up the back, up the top, and down the front of your head to your sinuses. So whenever that is, whenever those are activated, the nerves are activated, or it can cause severe pain in all those categories. And I had that nonstop. Pain moved around hourly, where it would be, and it was pretty much a miserable life. No amount of medicine would stop it. It just continued on, and I had to, you know, deal with it. Eventually, I just stopped taking everything and anything because it was better to have some life than to lie in bed and do nothing.
I remember 30 times the Botox. So you had to go get 30 shots of Botox, and I was like, seriously?
I cannot believe women do Botox. I cannot. That was so painful. That was like they take the needle and go right on your nerve, every place. It was and they whatever.
Well, the issue is that they weren't in there for pain. They were in there to have a different look. You're already in there with pain, so I think they just hit a raw nerve, if we could be so bold about that. But the thing about occipital neuralgia is that you had talked about that it felt like your head was in a vice. Someone was taking an ice pick from the back of your head and pounding it, and then someone was stretching and pulling it apart. So if you take those 3 componencies and have an occipital nerve, it goes around your entire head, skull. And every time we found out what the problem was after going to so many different doctors and so many different places, that you actually had a bone growth in the back of your neck. Every time the blood, your heart pulsated, you know, pumped blood, that you was causing you have severe pain. So hence the 24/7. And then, you know, going on and having that removed, and then going in, and then recently last year you had a stroke. So if you look at all those different things, the mental prepness that you had to go through, that I went through, and then our fortunate son, third one, that had leukemia added to the same time, that, you know, we were going through all this stuff, and you losing so much blood. Those mental health, that health issue that we address as a relationship, in addition to as our professional world, you know, one of the things we're going to talk about is how does that health affect your EQ, your emotional health and life. And you took it upon yourself to really stay alive, you know, to focus your energy on staying alive. How did you feel when you looked at the personal professional life that us as a couple, when you were going through all that?
Well, I was disappointed with myself with not being able to, you know, be forthcoming and forward as much as I possibly could to take charge of issues. I had to rely on you, obviously, to do a lot, and you stepped up, and there was never an issue with that. It was I could tell it was a huge strain on you, but you still kept going. There was no other option, and there's no way that you say no. You just continue on and say, yes, we're going to get this done and move forward. So,
well, you know, I think, to be very candid here, is that because of your allowing me to be completely independent, in addition to how I was raised, the skill set that I had developed through real estate, of pushing through the barriers between, you know, the foreclosure crisis, dealing with, you know, the uncertainty of rules and regulations, and always stepping up to the plate, allowed me to take on the mental endurance that I had to endure while you were, you know, laid up. And whether I felt the doctors, the hospitals, or the facility was taking care of you to the best I thought, and what little I knew about, being a doctor, but I knew what I felt was right or wrong. And so I was able to, we're going to find a way, we're going to find a solution. No is not my vocabulary. And I think because, compliment again, I can't 3 times in one call here, that I was able to, because of you, I had the strength to go challenge things that I felt were not being done right, or challenge situations that I could grow. And I think that what makes a success. It's not always about the finances. It's about keeping one alive. It's about keeping a relationship moving forward. And it's also keeping the quality of life. And that being said, no, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Giving you a smirk attitude back here. You can't see it.
Well, what people don't understand is that what I had, there's no way to really measure it. There's no way to tell. There's a lot of unknown going on for all these years. I had the pain. They thought I was, making it up. They thought, that I feel like my wife was trying to kill me.
Thank you very much. More ways than one. Go ahead.
They thought this was all mental. The physical aspects of it. It's hardly hard to measure. Like anyone knows when they have a severe migraine headache. Just people take you at your word, and that's it. So there was a lot of stuff, a lot of unknowns for a long period of time. You don't get a lot of people that will support you during that time period, as you did.
Well, thank you. I pull off from my modeling days. As a former model, your rejection is 99.9%. Occasionally you'll get a gig, or there's very few people who make it to the very high success. And I felt that had I already gone through that rejection period and gone through that, you just keep on going. No, it's not an option. And with you going through so many doctors and going through to find out what's wrong, it's not an option. You just figure it out. And I think that that's the combination of the drive, of the weaviness, and goes through it. And I think that, from a business relationship, the ebbs and flows, we go back to that, is that health. You got the emotional health, you had the physical health, where you were laid up. We had our son in one hospital and you in another hospital. And for 8 months, I'm traveling back and forth and not knowing which way is up, trying to maintain and keep, the strength. But then all of a sudden, we dealt with the family's finances, being jeopardized and losing over $500,000 and all that kind of stuff because of, the legal end of the banking institutions and things that we found out that were not cemented. But so the course of my independence has become a foreground to what we're doing right now, having this conversation, airing, how to keep a relationship. I would say how, but couples in business, there's no how, trust me, this is not a guidebook. But, humor is one other thing that, you look at EQ, you look at the health. We've had some really incredible laughs during the course. I remember, before we had children, we went in and 20 some years ago, went in to see a what do you call it? A gene doctor.
Chromosome specialist.
Chromosome specialist. Thank you. And we had him on the floor laughing for a whole hour. And he goes, "Are you guys stand-up comics?" And we said, "No, this is how we normally act." And so to get back to that humorous side, I, in all my great wisdom 3 years ago, said, I'm going to go adopt a 8-week-old puppy. And y'all looked at me like I was crazy with my work schedule. And then it became the core of who I am. I'm keeping my balance of life, because you showed me how much you loved my girls, who became my cup of love. And then when things got tough, just because of your love for the animals, showed my love. It proved to me how much you loved who I adopted, and you were able to transcend it. So it softened that blow between us, and when things were not perfect. So your take on that?
Not perfect? What are you talking about?
Yeah, far from. Yeah.
Well, again, I grew up with a very strong mother. She was a school teacher. My father had a stroke when I was 13, and my mom, to make more money, went back to school and got her master's. And, she was a very strong woman, and she just showed us the way, is that you don't complain about it. You just take care of it. And if that's your mindset, is that you're going to take care of it, and you don't, and not complaining about it, or sidetracking with you and getting a job done, then you can, everything just advances. Eventually it will lead to good times. You just take it as it is. When you make a commitment, it's a commitment.
It's so interesting because your mother, 4'9" of her, she allowed you to go to the beach at 5 years old and dropped you off at Seal Beach by yourself with no supervisor all day. Okay, different times, different place, but yes, you heard me right. 5 years old. I didn't say 15, 5 years old, dropped you off at the beach. So your mother was with 6 kids, very independent, taught kindergarten, 55 years, 60 years?
Yeah, about 50 years.
And here we are, and 3 boys, 3 girls, and you were like, okay, it is what it is, this is what you get done. And I think through your life of evolving, you have allowed that, strong women are fine, and that, it's okay to get it, because, not many women, with the independence that you have given me, still have someone in their lives, and haven't gone through, especially, getting to our age or girl, dude, like early. True?
True. Very, very true. An example, women who always needed everything to be told and, accepted all that, never interested me. They were very boring to me. So having somebody that, I could listen to and, and be interested in what they're saying, and them listening to me and be interested in what I'm saying, was the only way I thought of a relationship should be.
When we first were together, married life, that was something so spot on that I absolutely loved. When it came to when you had your stroke, when you had your health challenges, and especially it was your cognitive issues, was the number one thing that pulled me apart, is that here I married you for your brain, and you can exercise it and be spot on and be as quick and witty and understand everything so fast. That was probably the hardest thing that I had to deal with. Forget the finances, forget everything else, but the fact that you were not your mental self. And it wasn't because anything that I had done or you had done, it was just facts that had been dealt to you. And it's been a very long time. And I think because of your ability to fight through it, your desire to continue that path as a working couple, those are things that, as they say, you have less illnesses and less mental or cognitive issues when you're together with someone. It's a proven fact that, antibodies between two can be completely different, but in case you needed a liver or needed something as an organ part, that your significant other, when you're with them long enough, can actually be a donor, which is a very interesting health aspect for, know the rules. So thank you. Financial. Totally different subject. Yes, well, it can talk in this one. So back in the day when in the early, we're going to say, actually in the mid to late 90s, I was doing relocation for major Fortune 100 companies. And then we met, got married in 1991. And then after a couple of years or 4 or 5 years in the business, I said, dude, you can make more money coming working with me. And we ended up having separate companies. So you own one company, I own another company, and we're completely independent in those companies, but obviously we're together. And it's helped us become balanced, I'll say, and unbalanced in certain areas. But the idea is that when we went through the financial end of it, you were there till the midnight hour, till 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, when we had so many assets that we were processing, and the meltdown. Getting 150 properties in a day was okay. Yeah, right. and set in systems and making sure you were there 100%. You did what you did very well in computers and technology setups. And I turned around and did all the systems in play and the software development and strategies and business planning and how to do that. So we set up systems that people could not believe with the small, the staff size and the volume that we could do with the articulation we could do and be #1 in the country. With that being said, came its challenges when, things happen with health. We went into the financial aspect and everything else. You became a very much player in the space of being very, hey, you started it, run with it. And I think that it became to me an apparent, I like that, having an equal partner. So for working couples, I really believe that having someone to be the designated person and relying on that person sometimes can be overwhelming and be too much. My push would be that both entities have to be involved in it, understand it, and have a value add. I think we can really grow. And that was probably one of our weaknesses is that because of the other things that had happened, that sometimes you become acclimated and it's okay. How about your take on that?
Yes. Okay, next.
Thank you for that comment.
It's even though you have two companies working together, it really has to come down to you can't have two equal people on every issue and every project, everything. Nothing gets done that way. What you have to have is that one person has to take the lead, and which one feels most passionate about it or the one that is most qualified are things that you negotiate. And once that negotiation's done, it's just like, the marriage commitment vows is that get it done. You've committed to it. Just don't think about anything else. Just get it done, accomplish it, and finish it and move on to the next one. That's my thoughts.
Easier said than done.
Yes. Well, I have you for a wife.
Thank you. At the same time, having the same structure of life as we've gone through, we've been together now 30 plus years, married almost 29. And if you think about that's 3 decades, 50% of our life, we've been together, raised 4 children and 3 girls now, 3 puppy dogs. It has been a very much a evolving time of being together. And I think that one of the most important things on the Know the Rules of the Game that I want to bring to the table is that there's really no rules, because our lifestyle, our rules and regulations within the United States that we live in, technology, the fourth industrial revolution that we're involved in, how we communicate or lack of communication, the humanity itself has all got us to where it cannot be business as usual for a relationship. So my ask to you is that how do you perceive, as someone who I look up to being an incredible wizard in philosophy and in ideas and thought process, that do you feel that a working couple would transpire as the changes have gone? I mean, we're the old school, new school, and now future school. Future school is that we're no longer having date night. We're no longer, or we're just having date night. We're not having the simplicity and enjoyment of knowing each other on the simple stuff. So, you have a little cut on your hand, versus then it's not monumental.
Well, that's just the basics of life going on. But I mean, it comes down to being exactly in a relationship, no matter if it's the beginning, middle, or end, or any time of your life, is that it's respect. You're not going to, like or enjoy everything that the other person wants to do, but you have to respect them. And so, there's a little bit of trade-off there, that, if I respect them to watch a program, go to something, go do something, and then, yeah, I know I'm going to get that back with the respect back, the issues that I want to do. And these are issues that are not separating us, just our differences. And so we accept it and we move forward.
Case in point, thank you. I nursed the kids. I took care of the kids 100%. And then when I was done nursing, after a year and 3 months, I handed them off.
And you threw them. What do you mean handed them off? You threw them at me and said,
"They're yours.
They're mine, and if I don't see them for a while, I'm happy."
That's not true. That's not true. Other than the youngest one, when it was like, yeah, that was a whole different story. Yeah, let's not go there. 8 hours of solid nursing. Not a topic for this conversation.
No.
TMI. So that being said, you became their coach. You became their caveat for everything. You became the I'm not gonna say the working mom, but you became the role reversals. We flipped the roles. I became the outward one, going out, running systems, talking to people, becoming that outward flow, and you became the stay at home. Come home and I have dinner ready for me, and prep for me. Can you do this? Can you do that? And you became my support mechanism and kept me grounded. Still to this day, you do that. So has that, if you look at the rules and you look at what we've done with the change in the environment, what we've done for the group for NAWRB, what we've done for a real estate portfolio and our family wealth, how has that impacted you over the years of knowing that here I am in the limelight and you've been back? I mean, there are people who have never seen you, don't even know you exist, and think that it's a figment of everyone's imagination that I actually married you.
Well, it's true. This is a recording that she's just hitting the button every once in a while for my responses. Okay. But basically, you just love my spaghetti. That's why I was
okay.
cooking. No, I mean,
there's some truth to that. Go ahead.
Basically, I won. Yeah, you lost. I spent more.
Excuse me.
I spent more time with the kids, and you didn't. So tough.
So what did you win for that?
I got the kids.
Oh, they're old enough now to choose. They're over.
Yeah,
they're over 18.
So I got the kids that much. Did I really win or did I lose?
See. So now you're stealing my girls. You're stealing my puppies.
Again, if you're not here.
Taking the park every day, you run them for an hour, and we can have the fastest golden doodle at 10 pounds with Calissa. And instead of her jumping in my arms and being my melting pot, she's now jumping in your arms, because as soon as the word PARK is announced, she's out the door and won't even have anything to do with me. That's not fair.
Oh, well, that's
tough. So answer the question.
Never heard
it. Gotta love man, you can live with them, can't live without them, and never mind. So what did you think about me taking on playing water polo, taking on that flying and riding motorcycles and fixing cars and knowing how to do construction and being very much in, getting into doing things like that and being well versed? What did you think of that?
That was before my time, so what am I supposed to think about that? Since then, you've been this model of clothes, of great looking model, by the way.
I still thank you, but I still get on the roof. I still get off to do all the construction repairs. I still go and change all the light bulbs and get out there and get.
You walk up and you point and say, "That change, move it."
Get over, stand over. All right. So the cool thing is that having humor, cracking jokes in the middle of nothing. I'll be saying something, I'll get up there and I'll be so intense, ready to just go, and knots in my stomach because I got to go on stage or go somewhere, and you'll crack some ridiculous jokes, not even funny jokes, and you'll go, "What? Why are you laughing?" And if you don't know by now, I've been hitting them every time. It's like, we're doing this impact. So, all right. So moving forward. So we touched on health, the value of mental health, emotional health, and not our intelligence, and not just about the physical health aspect, because obviously you can see the physical aspect. mind over matter, taking care of each other. When one's down, if you can't communicate between you, is there something you both love? I obviously love my girls. They were the most important thing to me. It's so funny because even our son said, "Mom, you love the girls more than you love us." And I'm like, so yeah, what's your point? Uh,
Poor kids. Poor
and
kids.
and they know.
Just wait till they get the psychologist bill.
And so you were able to show your love through taking care of them, and it helped. It was a smile to my face. And then the other thing is the financial aspect is that when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Spent all this money, went through all the funds, for health and everything else, and now you're coming about, you're getting it, and you're motivated to get out there in the world and really start changing the portfolio that we have. And so for that, online, thank you for being, that equation, because here we're back in the swing of making sure impact is right. Motivation, it changes, it becomes a reality. And considering what's going on in the stress mode, we have completely different views on certain things and how things are being run by the state, county, the federal politics or in general. At the same time, we keep an even keel on it. We don't let it consume us, but at the same time, we have very strong values. And for me being in my position, you being your position, it can be very challenging. But at the same time, we respect each other's opinions. So I think that's, a value add there. The independence part, for the rule on that, allowing us to, you have your blossoms and encourage your blossoms, and you encourage my blossoms and support my blossoms. And you might not always agree with the way I do things or where we're going, but I always revert. For those who don't know, I rely on Jay's balance on philosophies and ideas behind the scenes and why you're doing this, what's the purpose of doing this, and where you're going, and is this the right thing to do, and what's your end game, what's your short game. And there's some detriment to that because he's so close to the subject matter. So I just want to let everyone know that, the success of my success comes from the success of my background and my back support, and that's Jay. He is.
So are you blaming me? I'm not sure what's going on here.
Blaming me or
wait a minute, wait.
So
she's successful.
So
don't blame me.
So so the success rate, I'll take the credit for. The ones that we aren't successful, you take the credit for it. And you threw it on me about the kids. I can throw it about you in my work. So when I'm not perfect, I can blame it on you because it's all your fault.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got that. All right. So wrapping up here. The last thing is that, we talked about the quote of the day, love, where there is love, there is life. And when you're showing the littlest love or the littlest respect, when you're down and you see someone else is not getting along, you remember those off moments. I can remember, when you were in a hospital and Ari was in the hospital, the coupleness of it, of showing it, working together, is someone would make a comment and say that, how dare you do that? And I'd turn around and go, wow, I would have seen that differently, but I wasn't part of that subject matter. And then I could relate that to you in a situation or me in a situation. And I'd say, wow, that was inappropriate that you put that onus on someone when they're not in the capacity to actually act on it. So I think that when you work together, one of the things is that where there's love, there's life. And like a plant, you can get it down to where you lose all the leaves, but you still have a nucleus that's still alive. And as long as you nurture that nucleus, it might not be where it was 2 years ago, 5 years ago, but you can repurpose it and regrow it.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's not good enough. Closing comment on your, now that we've done the podcast, good, bad, and different.
Oh, of what? Our relationship or the podcast? What are we doing here?
Both.
Oh, relationship is definitely great. It's definitely good. There's no issue. Like again, if you don't get sidetracked, anybody gets sidetracked or any of these things, it's their own doing. just don't accept being sidetracked, especially in a relationship. You're in that relationship. Why would you want to be sidetracked from it? Okay.
Demand,
So
high demand, high octane. People
doesn't
are always there.
doesn't matter. It's for yourself. You know, you should never worry about being sidetracked or being issues of those type of natures. So I think a lot of jealousy is because people can get sidetracked really easy. So if they can get sidetracked really easy, then their partner could. But if your partner doesn't get sidetracked, why should you?
Fair enough. And you put yourself in a situation to where you know the temptation, it's not a good thing. And so I travel all over the place without you. People like you have a husband. And so one of the things I do is I make sure that where I go, I feel good about myself. I make sure I'm in an environment that it can't go down that way. And I go to where I'm respected and loved and put into a position that I feel good about accomplishments and whatever that is a good thing. And sometimes it can be as simple as breaking an ice and going out to dinner by myself. I mean, that can be a very big accomplishment for me. Or sometimes it's going out and sitting on a stage and I'm like, oh yes, oh my gosh. And those are big deals.
Well, you're so great at that. So I mean, being on the stage, that is.
Oh, going out to dinner by yourself, I'm not good at all. That's a very true statement. That's
either am I. I'm not a single person.
Oh, there you go.
Again, move forward. Just keep moving forward, and when you move forward, make sure that you're with your partner, you're helping your partner, your partner is helping you. But as long as you both are moving forward, there's your happiness, there's your love, and there's your life.
What a closing, babe. Oh my gosh. Couples in business. I want to thank everyone for listening to Know the Rules of the Game for Couples in Business. I want to especially thank more endearingly my husband, Jay Jones, of 29 years this year, for taking the time and being on the podcast and actually coming forth that he actually is a human being and not a robotic person out there. And then also for more podcasts, you can get us at NAWRB.com. Again, that's NAWRB.com/podcast. And listen to all the podcasts we have. We're on live every Wednesday at 8 a.m. And then also we're going to have, make sure that you look out for our 2020 actually Women in Housing Ecosystem report that's coming out. We are so excited for all the data analytics that's coming out. And then remember, this is about for you. So if you want to join us, be on the call and have some breaking news that you believe that the rules of the game would be applicable for, please reach out to us. And again, I'm Desiree Patno, your host. And thank you very much for joining us and stay tuned. Thank you again.